Okay, and just leave it on?
Yep.
Okay, so is everyone in attendance here?
I think we're missing one, no, we're missing two committee members, Harold and Kevin.
Captain Harold.
Did you hear from Kevin at all? I know Harold wasn't coming. Just give me one.
Sure.
Just want to make sure that we have.
Okay.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, so I'll call this meeting to order. And I'd like to give recognition to New Chalmers territories, and in particular, we're doing work on Tishat and Hookachessis First Nations territories. Also, I'd like to give notice that this meeting is being recorded and live streamed to YouTube on the Regional District website. And perhaps we can go around the table and introduce ourselves, and we'll start here with Pam. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Good morning, everyone. Pam Craig, 6211 Smith Road, Beaver Creek Road. Thanks.
Gordon Blakey, 6692 Hills Road. Been with the Water Committee for quite a while, I think.
Mike Kovas, 6455 Mark Road, and also Beaver Creek Fire Chief.
Matt McLeod, Water Utilities Lead Hand in Beaver Creek. Eddie Kunderman, Operations Manager with the ACRD.
Good morning, everyone. Heather Zenner, Manager of Administrative Services and Beaver Creek resident.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, so we'll move right to the approval of the agenda. Could I get a motion to approve, or are there any additions to the agenda?
I'll move.
And a seconder? Thank you. All in favor? Motion carried. Okay, any declarations of conflict of interest? None noted. Now we'll move right to the minutes. Beaver Creek Water Advisory Committee meeting held March 12th. Can I get a motion, or are there anything errors or omissions in the minutes?
I'll move acceptance. Pam Craig.
Thank you. The seconder? Thank you. All in favor? Motion carried. We're moving to petitions. There are no petitions, delegations, and presentations. Next is correspondence for action and information, and there isn't any. Number 7, request for decisions. A, Beaver Creek water alternative rate and billing options. Was someone going to speak to that?
Thank you. So this report and this RFD stems from the June 28th, 2023 meeting in which the committee directed staff to investigate alternate rate and billing options for the committee or for the water system, to look at potentially moving from the current flat rate system with a one-tier consumption rate to looking at a flat rate with a increasing block consumption rate. Staff evaluated the options of shifting and moving from the flat rate to that increasing block rate structure, looking at different rates, keeping in mind that we had to hit a certain revenue amount we had to ensure that whatever we moved to, looking at past models, would ensure we were receiving $900,000 to $1 million in water revenue from the rates. So keeping that in mind, we did the research. We moved through, as you can see in the report. After the detailed review, the report recommends not switching at this time to this structure and keeping with the current structure. It seems that the current structure, more water systems out there now are moving away from the structure we looked at and kind of moving towards what we use in the Beaver Creek water system. It does do a good job of kind of influencing system users to meet a certain target, water consumption and conservation wise. So among the various challenges that were found was complexity for users. It is a more complex billing system because there are different, the way we looked at it, there's a block of like 4 different rates. And as you moved up through the rates, you get charged for each different rate as you go up through the system. So it is a little bit of a complex system. You need to have a lot of user education and communications before we went out to it. Administrative burden, implementing and managing the more complex rate structure would require additional resources administration wise. It could potentially drive up costs for the system. And then kind of the big one when we looked at this is the stability of revenue. And you know, the way our system is set up now, we know what revenues we're going to get annually, and we can create a detailed work plan based off those revenues. If we moved to this structure and consumption for whatever reason went down, we had a plethora of the users changing the way they consumed water and using a lot less, revenue could dive. And then we're left in a situation where we have to adjust mid-year our operational practices, or potentially for the following year, increase taxes to make up for it. So the report does recommend, for those reasons, continuing with the current rate structure, and then exploring ways to continue to encourage conservation, manage water sustainability, continue to bring down our unaccounted for water loss is a big one, because every cubic meter we lose is money that we are losing. So with that being said, the recommendation is in there, and happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions? I just have one. So really, in effect, conservation conflicts with revenue.
And through the chair, it's a good question. Like, if you are looking at moving to the different rate structure, then yes, it would. The way we have it right now is everybody has that 172.62 for your initial charge per quarter. So we have a certain, we have that certainty with revenue, right? Based off that rate structure. If you reduce that rate structure and then really have a pay for what you use equitable type service, then yes, you do have that system. It's kind of counterintuitive a little bit. Yes.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any comments or questions? Yeah.
So the bottom line is the way I look at it, because we addressed this years ago when it was Beaver Creek, is that what we're paying now is basically operating costs. Like, with what we're paying now, we're not putting a lot of money in the bank or on the side, from what I can see. So I kind of agree with what's happened here.
And to the chair, and yeah, that's a good point. We actually, with our current structure and our current operating budgets and our annual capital contributions, we actually are doing quite a good job, especially when you compare it to other systems and to other services. We are doing a good job of putting those capital funds away, a couple $100,000 a year, depending. Again, of course, it changes from year to year, but we've done such a good job of making these infrastructure improvements in the system. We've improved our maintenance within the system, so our emergency costs and our water repair costs are coming down. So we're able to contribute more, right? So they come down, we can contribute more, we can do more renewal and replacements within the system. So it's that we are doing a good job, though, of putting the suitable contributions. Now, it doesn't meet exactly what's in the asset management plan, and that's that high level target we're striving for, but we are still always working to get better, but we're comfortable with what we're putting away in the capital replacement plan.
Any other comments or questions? I'm just wondering if we shouldn't increase it anyways, because we're looking towards adding advanced water treatment to the system. And although we put aside money for capital costs, it only makes sense, right? So I don't know what would be a good recommendation, but I'd certainly look forward to it.
Yeah, and through the chair, it is a good point. I think we'll really want to wait and see kind of what the results of the study that's going on, that's just kicked off, will be. And then we can kind of assess what we need to do and where we go from there.
But we could look ahead. Like save for the future and spend it on some other water thing if it doesn't work out, right?
Yeah.
Thanks. Any other comments? Okay, would someone like to make the motion?
I'd go ahead and move the motion that Beaver Creek Water Advisory Committee recommend that no changes are made to the billing structure being used for Beaver Creek water system.
And a seconder? Thank you. All in favor? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, now we move to reports. Beaver Creek Water System 2025 Work Plan.
I got this one. So kind of our annual practice is putting together our high level draft work plan for the Beaver Creek water system for 2025. And then we're doing this for all the systems. We have the overall ACRD work plan, and really just making sure that the Beaver Creek work plan fits in with the bigger picture work plan. And that we're identifying the required time and resources necessary to make sure we're making an accurate and achievable list for the system for 2025. So I'll just go through kind of what we have in there. As we move through it and we kind of get to that finalized work plan, then we'll use that to create the financial plan that the committee then sees for approval. So we'll come back at that point, but we'll just go through the projects that we have on there right now for some information. So we just charted it kind of as those ongoing projects. And we have, as we talked about, the alternate water supply study that's just kicked off yesterday with McElhaney Consulting Limited. So the estimated completion on this project will be May 30th, 2025. And that's when we project to get that final report to be ready to take to the board. That will talk to the feasibility of groundwater, what sources are available as far as groundwater, if any, to make sure that we're hitting the amount of water Beaver Creek would need for the system, surface water, and then looking at, when we look at ground and surface water, the preferred approach, and looking at the construction, the ongoing capital costs and maintenance for the water treatment plant based on the source that is selected. So we're looking at May of 2025 for that one. As we move down now, we're looking at the City of Port Alberni master water planning, and then that bulk agreement renegotiation. And this is, I think the first two kind of somewhat go together. But the City of Port Alberni is undergoing a water master plan. It will be starting in the next month or so. So we'll kind of see what the results of that will be and how that impacts the Beaver Creek system and the potential bulk water renegotiation. That contract, the bulk water agreement, due to the clause in the contract, it ends as of December 31st, 2025. We have in there leak detection survey. We had scheduled this for 2024, and then we've had a variety of staffing issues and surgeries, and one of our employees recently moved on to a different job. So we had pushed it to 2025, but now we've been able to kind of recircle and get it done for the end of November this year. So that will actually be completed as initially planned in 2024. So that's a good one to get going when we talk about that unaccounted for water loss, and looking at ways to continue to reduce that. We've done a good job. It was down to 18% last year. So we've done a good job of bringing that down every single year. And I think this survey will just bring that down even more. SCADA improvement plan. So phase 2, as identified in 2024, we started a 4-phase approach to updating the SCADA in our 4 pump systems, our 4 pump stations, sorry. So Strick Road is being completed this year, and next year we're looking at the North Reservoir site will be completed. The technology in the current system is quite out of date, and we really want to make sure that that is up to date and reliable as can be. Now going through to new 2025 projects, we have the North Reservoir replacement design. So in looking to be proactive in getting this design ready and looking at identifying potential options for the North Reservoir replacement, we really want to get this, the design completed, because it is a very large project. We have it slated for 2028 currently in the capital plan for replacement. But we do think it's going to take some time to design, because we're likely not going to be able to move forward with the current type of reservoir that we have. So we're going to have to identify options for different reservoir types. And depending upon which is selected, there could be ramifications throughout the system as far as making sure we have adequate pressure. So we're just getting that going. Again, we want to make sure that the project is shovel ready should any grants become available as well. So we're going to get that going this year. It'll likely be a 2-pronged approach, getting that tech memorandum on options, and then moving forward once we select an option for a more detailed design. Lower Kitsexis water main replacement. So keeping up with our strategy, we've been very successful, as mentioned, in infrastructure replacement and renewal within the system, which has brought down operating costs annually. And with our, we've done a good job of making sure we've had a project shovel ready, and we've designed lower kits replacement this year. And the plan is to go out, put an RFP out for it in early or late 2024, early 2025, to ensure that we are hitting those ideal construction windows to reduce the costs of the project. We had success on that. Smith Road came in 200,000 less than we initially planned for in the budget. We have a capital budget set for this project of $760,000 for the replacement. We'll see what that actually comes in at when we get to tender, but we think it will be less than that based off the history. Moving through Itron meter reading hardware upgrade. So our current hardware is no longer supported by the supplier. As we move through, the risk of not being supported, of course, gets higher. So we're just moving forward with getting this replaced. We will be reaching out to the supplier in the next couple of weeks to get that moving, make sure we see what the timeline is. Last we heard, there was an 8-month lead on getting the actual hardware delivered. So that's why we're going to reach out as soon as possible. We had talked about Catsuxis Reservoir crack sealing. We're going to have more discussions on whether this will take place in 25 or 26. But this is, there are some cracks in the reservoir that will need to be sealed. We have a little bit of leakage occurring there. And then airbag installation for the dump box. This is kind of a more operational item. We just, the loads, when carrying heavy load in the truck, we're getting really low. So we're looking just at installing some airbags for suspension. And then as we move through, of course, we're just working on approving the plan and getting it approved. We're ahead of schedule as to where we are typically every year. As we move through, though, and get that final approval, we'll create the draft financial plan for the system and move forward and bringing back to the committee for review. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I just have one comment, just because I've been involved a little bit lately in Cherry Creek discussions about them dissolving the improvement district and rolling it into the regional district. And they were talking about perhaps a joint system or sharing costs in some way, like a joint water system. So I don't know if we can think ahead in any way or talk to McElhaney and just put the idea in their head, but it might be a good idea if it's possible to have one water treatment system between the two, maybe 2 different source waters. Maybe they can, just to put the idea out there, because more than one person talked about it. And I think it makes sense because there could be cost savings, big cost savings for us. So that was my comment. Plus one other thing is we'd like to meet more often. Go ahead.
I can make a comment on that. Very astute. Yes, we definitely continue to have Cherry Creek water conversion on the horizon. It's a tough situation in these cases because you don't want to invest time and energy into a thing unless you know exactly what it looks like and when it's happening. We still do have the project with McElhaney underway. We've issued it, awarded it. So I think that won't be wasted time and energy because it's still good research on source options. But when and if we know what the Cherry Creek situation looks more like, we will then have a lot of work to do. And it's nuanced because with the regional district, we have different service areas paying for things. So how do we look at that? How do we look at options? I wasn't here at the time, but when Beaver Creek, came into the regional district, it's a lot of work when you start to take over a service that exists to look at all of the different ways that you incorporate existing staff and make things run most efficiently. So, but yes, we're aware and the possibilities are endless. So thank you for raising that. With more meetings, we could. The reason we've actually gone down to 2 meetings is that we had 2 set meetings. We can always call more meetings, but what we found is that this system runs so smoothly and efficiently that we don't have a lot of things that require a meeting. And so we want to make sure we're having meetings for good reason. The spring meeting, we talk about budget and we do the annual report so that you guys are up to speed on things, have input at that point in how we're meeting the goals and targets. And then this set meeting is again, kind of for the same reason. Eddie was presenting the work plan and where things are at. It's that opportunity for input. we don't have a lot of other issues that come up generally just because it's all very operational. So I would say that we can call a meeting at any time if there's concerns. But otherwise having maybe just 2 set meetings for the year so we know we'll definitely have those seems to be working pretty well.
My only comment is about the meetings is it's more for when we're speaking to the public or people are asking questions to us. You know, we don't feel updated enough sometimes, or we don't know what's happening or where things are at. Like I thought that the McElhaney study was supposed to start in the spring. So when people asked me about it, that's what I was saying, but it didn't start till now. So it might be a good idea, you know, even just for an update or something. Thank you.
And I do want to say, like, this is open to all of the committee members. If you have a question that comes in from the public and you need an answer to it, you can just email staff. Like it could goes to Eddie, copy Daniel, or to Daniel, and he'll take it to Eddie or to myself. Any of us will be happy to give quick updates. And then we're also not waiting for you to have to come to a meeting too. So we can really get that flow of information going. Just shoot us an email anytime you've got a question.
One more comment. Often my emails are not answered, and I was told to go through Daniel. So that's kind of why I would like to have him at meetings. Thank you. But that's okay. Anyone else? Would anyone else like to comment?
There may be options to have an extra meeting. I get asked questions at times. So if I need to find out something, I certainly call the office and get that information from my neighbors. And, but I would like to be able to let you know that there may be an option that we would need to come together. If several of us have questions and comments from the community, we need to have that opportunity to just call and say, can you schedule something in a couple of weeks? Not that you want it that day or the next day. And
Heather, can you speak to the process that we go through when we do call a meeting, right? When it's not a pre-scheduled meeting, because we have a system for that.
We have to follow the ACRD procedures bylaw, so just the same bylaw that governs the board. We're required to post the meeting date and the agenda 48 hours in advance, so we would need that kind of timeline. But I was just looking at the terms of reference, and meetings can be called at the call of the chair, so you could request that, Susan.
Okay. Thank you.
thank you very much. And I have a question about Smith Road water. We're all very pleased with the water and the work that was done this summer and the group that did that work. They were welcomed in the community. I think that if you got some cookies now and again and stuff. But one thing, if you think about the rationale and how wonderful it is to have more fire hydrants, we're so thrilled to see that. But some people are saying, well, how did that happen? Why did it happen? Was it because it was the opportunity to do it, or has regulations changed? All those kinds of questions I've heard from a couple of neighbors. So if I could, take that back, I would be pleased to do that.
Yeah, so the standard for fire hydrant spacing back when the system was designed was around 1,000 feet, seemed to be the standard between the hydrants. Any of the new projects are 100 to 150 meters in between the hydrants. And then when we're doing the water main renewal, that's like the best time to add the hydrants in, rather than trying to overview the system and start putting some in other locations on an aging water main. So we take that opportunity with new stuff to add that.
Thank you very much. I'm sure that those neighbors that have been inquiring are pleased to have them for sure. But now we'll understand that's the opportunity. Thank you.
Is there any other questions? So we're all good. Okay, so could someone make the motion? Or to receive the report?
Pardon me, okay.
And a seconder?
Second.
Thank you. And all in favor? Motion carried. There isn't any, moving on to number 9, late business. There isn't any late business. Was there anything from the public?
Let me just check. No emails and nothing in Zoom, and there's nobody in the audience.
Thank you. Okay, so now we need a motion to adjourn. And a seconder. Thank you. All in favor? Thank you very much. And thank you guys. You're doing a good job.
Thank you.
We have some, just volunteer participation, okay, Dr. Cab and, Gordon, we have some volunteer participation. Thanks for your time and dedication. Oh, and for you, thank you so much.
Really enjoying this whole group, actually, like, Matt knows like well about all the time, like, first it's starting to the operations, which is amazing. Eddie is a fantastic manager, but we also have a really good team. This is one of the areas that's so